My friends, it is a red letter day. Donald Trump has ended all of Joe Biden's, the man who was President Vegetables for the last 4 years, all of his Autopen signatures, his executive orders, documents, etc., are being undone by a Trump executive order, which, of course, all I got to say is about time. This is from Donald Trump's rapid response X account. Says any and all documents, proclamations, executive orders, memorandums, or contracts signed by order of the now infamous and unauthorized Autopen within the administration of Joseph R. Biden Jr. are hereby null and void and of no further force or effect. Anyone receiving pardons, commutations, or any other legal document so signed, please be advised that said document has been fully and completely terminated and is of no legal effect. Thank you for your attention to the matter. Now, I don't want to rain on anyone's parade here. I think this whole move is brilliant. It's smart to undo all of the executive orders that clearly Joe Biden wasn't all there, probably had nothing to do with. And so you had a bunch of weird, creepy people behind the scenes running his presidency, maybe his wife. But they were not Joe Biden's. I 100% believe. However, when it comes to overturning pardons, I don't know that this is going to work. I would love it to work because, again, I don't think that it was Joe Biden at all who was ordering these pardons for a bunch of dirtbags and sleazeballs. But the irrevocability of presidential pardons is pretty near absolute from my understanding. Essentially, the presidential pardon power, which is outlined in Article 2, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution, is pretty much done and final once a pardon has not only been granted by the president, but accepted by the person who's receiving the pardon. And as far as I'm aware, there is no provision that would allow a successor president, a next president, to end or revoke presidential pardons. Unless somehow you could prove that it was not Joe Biden who ordered the pardons. And I don't know how you do that without getting his internal staff to confirm this. I mean, it seems like almost an impossibility to me. And as far as I'm aware, and I was doing some research before I jumped on here, but I only found revocations of a pardon in one example, which is, I think it was post-Civil War. And only then because the recipients hadn't yet accepted the pardon. That's it. And if we talk about the Autopen, I mean, you're talking Thomas Jefferson had an Autopen. I think it was called the polygraph that he was using. So this is how long presidents have been using a mechanical signature device. So I don't know how you overturn the pardons and commutations. That being said, for everything else here, thank God that this is happening. The corruption by the Biden team, the weirdos, the deep staters controlling him behind the scenes because he was essentially a vegetable, drooling in the corner half the time at the White House. Their actions, these crazy people who had no business running the country, practically led this country to ruin during Biden's 4 years as president. Think mass immigration at the border, nobody doing anything about it. Nearly destroying this country and leading to Donald Trump getting his second chance. So let's see what Fox News has to say about this. Trump doubles down on voiding Biden's Autopen actions, including pardons and commutations. This is by Jasmine Bayer at Fox News. President Donald Trump announced in the Truth Social post on Tuesday that he would fully and completely terminate any documents signed by former President Joe Biden's Autopen, including pardons and commutations, which again we've just discussed. The post confirms Trump is doubling down on potential action after announcing last week he would void any executive orders signed using the Autopen from former President Biden. And that, by the way, is fine when it comes to the executive order element. Those have to be undone just on principle. Anything you can overturn, especially considering that Joe Biden, didn't know where he was half the time, you just have to assume it's not him. And Trump wrote about this last week, saying the Autopen is not allowed to be used if approval is not specifically given by the President of the United States. The radical left lunatics circling Biden around the beautiful Resolute desk in the Oval Office took the presidency away from him. And that, I am of no doubt sure, is what happened. And that's where, if somehow they could prove that the pardons were not authorized by Biden, but outside of getting people who work for Biden to admit to that, and even then, I don't know. It seems like such an uphill battle. I don't think that that's going to work. Give it the college try, I guess, but it seemed like practically an impossibility. Now, the president claimed in his post that former President Joe Biden did not personally approve Autopen signatures, which again, I don't doubt, which is a device which has been used since the Truman administration. And in the same post, Trump said 92% of Biden's documents were signed with the Autopen device. So you're talking about over 160 executive orders that Joe Biden signed, and 92% of them could get thrown out. Which, that's the risk of executive orders. The Biden administration undid about 50 to 60 of Trump's executive orders from his first term. A president can do an executive order, but unless it's codified into law by Congress, the next president can undo it. Minus, of course, pardons. So we will see what happens, but for the most part, thank God it's about time. I'm surprised it actually took this long to do it, but, better late than never.